My guest today has escaped from Alcatraz and competed in 4 Ultraman races. Despite being dyslexic, he was able to skip a grade early in his education in Brazil and eventually attended Stanford, where he was a member of the triathlon team. After an intense career that has taken him and his family around the world, today he is working for a startup in California. These are just some of the things I learned by reading Running to Myself, A Journey of Endurance, a new book by my guest who joins us today from Belmont, California, Acyr Da Luz. Welcome to the podcast, Acyr.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Larry. Thanks for having me. Honored to be here.
For our world audience, because we do have listeners from around the world, Belmont is on the San Francisco Peninsula, about halfway between San Francisco and San Jose, kind of not far from Stanford. Um, what is it like there? Why do you choose to live there?
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, you're right. It's halfway through, I'll say like Palo Alto and San Francisco, and it's a great place to live. We really love living here. We moved to the peninsula for Stanford, so we moved over here for school, right, in 2016, and decided not to move away because changing kids, school again, and keeping them in the same school, that was kind of the plan.
Right.
We ended up moving from Palo Alto to Belmont, and what is close, very close, like 20 minutes. But we like a lot of friends in the area. What I really like is because I live in an area that is has a lot of opportunities in terms of work, education, and a lot of things happening in the Bay Area.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm 10 minutes, 15 minutes from the mountains, from very nice bike rides,
Mm-hmm.
from the coast. I'm like 30 minutes from the coast. So it's a very I can really enjoy nature here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one best cycling places in the US, right? To cycle in the redwoods, a lot of mountains, very safe to do it. So I think it's a good combination.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
So it brings all of your different parts of your lifestyle together, of your training, your work, enjoyment of the
yeah,
nature with your family. Great. That's an awesome
exactly.
place
That's
to
exactly
live
right.
then. Yeah.
And we are kind of not too far from Tahoe, that we go snowboarding a lot, not too far from Yosemite, that we go camping a lot. So there are places that we go every year as a family,
Yeah.
and here it's kind of a good place to be.
Excellent. Well, I mentioned that you're working for a startup in that introduction. And I know from reading your book, you spent a long career um, going through some major companies, but maybe tell us about where you are now and the people that know you from past races. They can catch up to where you are now in your life as well with this startup. What sort of work are you doing?
Yeah, so I spent most of my career in consulting. Started back in Brazil in 2001, and was for a long time started as a new analyst and developed my career on that all the way to partner, and moved around the world, right? Went to Europe. We lived in Switzerland for about 5 years. Spent some time in Asia, and came to US in 2012. 2012, from now we moved different places in US, but mostly now live in California since 2016. So my life was really working with large corporations and building business within consulting. Um, Late last year, got an opportunity to join a startup to work on AI innovation, something different that I was willing to do, and I'm learning a lot. It's a different size of the company, the organization, how you navigate. It has a lot to do what I studied and learned and lived through at Stanford.
Mm,
So I'm excited because of that. One of the main reasons I have done and studied Stanford was to do that, to move from the big corporation, big corporate America world to the
right.
startup world, and I think that's happening. Yeah.
Mm,
So excited with that.
excellent. Well, I would like to kind of go through a little bit of your history. You're not unlike a lot of the Ohana guests where you start off with maybe not the best sporting background, or at some point in your life, in your case, you became not the best sporting background, and then you start off with, oh, I'm going to do a 5K run, I'm going to do a marathon, and that story goes
Yeah.
on and on. But let's go right back kind of early on into like your childhood years. You were originally, you said in the book, fairly thin, athletic. You skipped a grade in grade school despite suffering dyslexia, and I guess that meant that was you were hanging out with some older kids. And
Yeah.
so when you got into your teen years, things started to turn a little bit for you, where you weren't already treating your body very well. Can you tell us a little bit about like what happened at that time and that stage in your life?
Yeah. No, definitely. So if you start early on in life, right? So as a kid, I was very active. Um, I'm from Rio originally, Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, but my family had a house in the mountains, close like 2.5 hours from Rio. We'd spend all the weekends there, and I would never be home. I would get I'm talking about 5 to 10 years old, right? Between that age, I would
Yeah.
always arrive there, get my single speed bike, and just disappear. Like my mom sometimes would have to chase me down, and because with the car and try to find me in the many roads around that, didn't have many cars on the road, so it was pretty safe. I would spend the whole weekend biking, right, with the kids, and it was playing with friends. Right, for me, it was not exercise; it was just playing. But that's what we would do a lot. Um, then I was about 10 years old. My dad had some issues on his job. He lost his job, had to start a company. So as a consequence, like we stopped traveling, stopped going to the house, stay more in Rio. That environment that for me was kind of was where I would love to spend my time with nature, biking, friends. But I went away, and in Rio I would swim. Right, I would go to the club and swim during the week and bike on the weekend. That was kind of my main activities.
Right.
Then from one time to the other one, I very quickly it went away, and um, and then I started putting weight without noticing. Right, for me it's easy to understand what happened now, but
Hmm.
back then I could not see that. And then I would be quiet and more not very active as I was. And then it's like 13, 14, like teenage years. I was younger than everybody, right? Because I had skipped a grade early on.
Right.
So a way to fit in, of course, is like the easy one at that time is like, oh, go drink, right? Because it doesn't require a lot of skills to do that, right?
Yeah.
Let's say it. And and I remember as a teenager, I would drink a lot of beer, hard liquors, going out. Brazil was probably easier access than US for drinking, especially back then in the time. And a lot of the friends, that was kind of the community I started to hang out with.
Right.
Um, and I don't think that was treating either my body or myself the way I would today, but that's how it worked back then. And I was getting very distant from the kid that was growing up before, the
Mm.
active kid that would spend all day biking, never stop. I would wake up 5 in the morning, knock the window of my friends, get them on the bike, and disappear. Right? That kid was left behind, and I became
Mm.
the guy that would, I don't know, pull all nighters, drinking with friends, come back, not dedicate too much time to the studies that I needed to, that I should.
Hmm.
So it kind of, if I compare my early ages with late ones, very different, right? And at home, I didn't have a lot of reference on exercise, or my dad never exercised, or my mom did a little bit, but was more walking. For me, exercise or like a marathon or anything was something that I watch on the TV, some
Mm.
ultra person doing that would not, I'll not belong to that world, right? That
Right.
I'll never see that.
Yeah.
Um, so that's how I grew up. right? And things took a turn on teenage years that probably not very healthy,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And it took me a while to really understand that.
Mm. And I
Um,
think, tell me if I'm reading in too much of what I read in the book. It probably has a little bit to do with the relationship with your father as well, who was a bit of a serial entrepreneur, maybe, or he would move from one thing to the other and would work super hard, and thus
yeah,
that kind of was you got into the idea of you know that health and fitness maybe was not the most important thing, but a career and working hard was important.
yeah. I think you are right on many aspects. His focus was always on the companies, on the business. He was building one, and when I work, he would build the next one and move from business to business. Never prioritize his health or even the relationship and the family, right? So it was very distant. I would see that from a distance. Um, when I was about 18, was it 18? I was 18 actually. His companies, all of them kind of went south, right? Um, and at that point, I looked in the mirror and said, look, it's not going to be my dad or his company. I think I have to own this and build my own life,
Hmm.
right? That was a very, very difficult time in our family for my siblings, for my mom, for him, for everybody, for
Yeah.
me. Everyone took a little bit different. What I took was I I have to focus on it, on my career. I have to build my own world here, right? No
Right.
one's going to do it for me. And so I dedicated a lot of time to the to the work, to the career, and neglected the, the body and the health
Hmm.
that was not very well taken care of in teenage to begin with, right?
Yeah.
So things didn't go very well,
Right.
right? I started getting very overweight, and a lot of health issues would come
Yeah.
after that.
Well, you tell a
Um,
story in the book of when you joined the service in Brazil as mandatory at 18.
yeah,
You were unsure of what your weight was, and you were shocked when you found out where you actually were.
yes, yeah,
Can you tell us about that?
yeah. Yeah, exactly. I was 18 in Brazil is like it's mandatory that you have to enlist for the army for the military, right? That I did for the Navy. And then you go there, you have like to do physical exam and all of that. And one of the steps were, look, you have to go and weigh yourself and in front of the military person there. He puts on your form and keep going. And I remember on that queue, right? I was on that line, and then the line was going very slow. So the military guy was like, "Hey, people, don't need to wait. Just put your weight over there. Just when you come here, just tell me your weight, and we'll move forward quickly, right? Don't need to wait. I just want to push the line across." And then it was like a few minutes before me, and I was like, "Okay, good. I don't have to wait, right?" And then the person in front of me, he asked the weight, and the guy he said 80 kilos. And then he asked me right after, right? I didn't know an answer. I said 80 kilos, whatever. Just go with that. It's good. Looks good. Sounds good. Let's go. Further down the line, the guy took my form and said, this is not right. I said, what? You don't have 80 kilos. Let's go back there and wait. I said, okay, let's go back. And it was way above that. If I think it was like 114, right? It was like way, way above that.
Yeah.
And then for me it was a reality check, right? I said, oh, things are worse than I thought. And um and I had to face that,
Yeah.
right? At that time I said, look, I'm going to lose weight, and I did. I went all the way to 83 at that time, 80, 83. But when the crisis happened with my dad, and then I had to focus on work, they started to come up, come
Right.
up, come up. And suddenly I was above 113. I was like 120, right? When things got really bad and was working extremely hard.
Hmm.
It was very hard to find balance, and I think that was I was probably turning. I turned the person that what I did not admire on my dad, I ended up becoming that,
Right.
right? Because I was not really having a healthy life, not dedicated time to the family, I was just focused on work. He was focused on the company, I was focused on my career, but it's
Yeah.
still work.
Yeah.
And in a certain point on my career, I had a very big disappointment, right? That I was all set, ready to be promoted, to become a partner. It was a big deal, big promotion at that time, and did not happen.
Mm.
But when that happened for me, it was kind of a turning point. I took it hard. I said, okay, something's not right.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why this did not happen, right? And I went back and soul search back home. I, I think I mentioned that in the book. I could have changed jobs. I could have changed countries, go back to
Mm.
Brazil. I could have changed careers, but I said, look, I'm going to change myself.
Right.
I think that's what I need to do.
Yeah.
I need to focus on what I think the core things are, spend time with my family, take care of my health. And that day I decided to start running.
Yeah. This is
I
this is
said,
the what this is my favorite story in your book. Um, and 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 I just want to set this up a little bit. It's like when you decided, okay, there's a time for a change. You talk to your boss that night and you're like, he wanted you to come in for some 5 a.m. meeting or something. And you're like,
yeah,
I can't do it. I'm starting my running program tomorrow. And he was a little incredulous and a little bit
yes,
maybe insensitive and didn't believe that this was something that you were going to be doing. And
yeah,
and maybe that even sparked you a little bit more because not only
oh
did
yeah,
you start a running program, you didn't even wait for the next morning. You decided you went home and you started that night, is what you've written in your book. That, like, if I don't start it now, he might be right. I might never start this thing. And so there's just something about, can you tell us a little bit more about how that went
yeah,
down?
yes. I think the start is always very hard, very hard. And I always decided I'm gonna do, instead of focusing on losing weight, I said, look, I'm gonna start running because I think running is positive, and I'm gonna lose weight by running. I'm gonna run. I'm gonna start running. That was my focus. And I was on a 7 a.m. call with him, not call, meeting, in-person meeting. And then he said, look, let's meet tomorrow at 5. And then I said, no, I can't, right? I can't. And why? You have another meeting? I said, no, because I'm going to go for a run. And he was like, he's like, what? What is that? What are you talking about? And I'm saying, look, if I told you I was going for a doctor appointment, you would be okay with that. I'm just preventing a doctor appointment, just avoiding that. And he was in shock. And and I remember he was like, I said, look, I have to take care of my health. I'm going to start running. I'm going to do in the morning. And then he was shook his head, and yeah, we probably need to take care about our health as well. Of course, he was thinking. I'm sure he made him think his own life because he was working a lot.
Mm.
And um, I didn't put his name in the book. That's just a alias, right? I protect who that person is because I don't expose him. And then he said, okay, so I'll take care of it. We can meet another time. And I drove home, and then I said, you know what? This is not going to go well because if I don't show up tomorrow morning, things will may get a snowball, may get worse. Um, there will be reasons not to run every time. But when I arrived home, I said, there's no reason not to run. I'm going to do it now. I'm not going to wait. And then if I can do it, I'll do it tomorrow morning. If I do the other day, I'll do it. So I said, I'm going to use every time, every spare time I have to put the run in, right? So I arrived, went, changed it, left the home, and I didn't even know where to go, right? Like, okay, go run. I said, yeah, run for what? Run to what? What goal? No course. It's not like a running track or running. There's nothing. There was like a parking lot. And I'm saying, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to start running. and it was very hot. I had not noticed it was hot because I was never out. I was in the car, air conditioning the whole day. I said, I'm going to just do it. And it was very hard, horrible, dragging myself. Like there were a little bit of small hills that for me were very hard to climb at that time.
Yeah.
And I said, no, I did it. And so I ran, and I was there on the next day. I think it was 6, maybe 5 or 6 a.m. And I shocked him. He was surprised. And he was, oh, no run this morning, right? He expected me not to run,
Right.
right? And said, no run this morning. I ran yesterday, and I'm
Yeah.
going to run every night.
Yeah.
There was a part of me that wanted to do it, and there was a big part that wanted to prove him wrong, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I used that in my favor. I
Yeah.
said, look, I'm going to use this for positive energy from me doing something good, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I never stopped
Yeah.
since that day.
Yeah.
And there were many reasons not to run many days. So,
Yeah. And I think, you know, this is what I feel like the book was really all about. It was that taste of grit or resilience that moved you on to the path that you're able to build on it each time and kind of set a new goal. And many people don't have that grit or resilience to even take that first step. But once you took that first step, it reshaped all facets of your life.
yeah. One of the main reasons that I wrote the book that got me going to write the book and motivated me, and I thought that very often. One thought that I had was one day I'm sure my kids will be in a difficult situation. Something didn't happen professionally, personally, a relationship, whatever it is, right? This is life. It's gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I want them to know, to remember, to have it vivid on the memory that a lot of the good things they lived through happened because I was in that moment, right? So they can turn bad things in their favor and
Mm.
use that energy to do good things for them,
Yeah.
both on career, on their health, on their relationships, or who they are as people.
Yeah.
And in the book, you're right, is a lot about taking negative stuff that happened that you didn't plan and how can I turn this into something positive, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even some issues on races, I step back, I look, now I understand what happened
Mm.
and why it happened that way becomes my energy for the next one.
Right.
Of course, when I finish, get a medal, it's good, it's great. But but I would say the most fun chapters to write and the ones with most lessons are the ones that did not finish as I expected.
Mm.
Um, and I try to put a lot of, I don't know, some fun into it because when you look now, things are laughable. At that time, there's a lot of stress involved,
Yeah. Yeah.
but a lot of them are laughable now, right?
All right.
And I think try to keep it light and
Yeah. Absolutely. It comes
things are not
across
going
that
to be
way.
perfect, but take it, take that energy and make it positive.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of things that when I look back, I could take it negatively in life, like when my father had a lot of financial issues and some health issues that I had, and I could do that and take it negatively
Mm.
and blame others, but instead, okay, how do I make this and take it to the positive side?
Right.
Not easy, but
Oh, you've
it can be
definitely.
done,
Yeah,
right?
and I feel like you've definitely done it. I mean, and the way you progressively go through each of the different goals that you have, and it doesn't matter like you share the parts that went wrong as much as you share the parts that went right. And I think that makes for some great storytelling. You know, you're not hiding the failures you had. They're in there as well. And you know, even looking back to your first goal, which was quickly set once you got out running, and that you were like, I want to run a marathon, and then you're like, I want to run a marathon in under 4 hours. Like you were making some lofty goals, pretty much right away. And like all great quest stories, though, you know, the protagonist, they need to find some aid along the way, someone to create bonds with in completing these quests. And for you, it was your friend fellow Brazilian Danny, and your family, who you brought in. Your children were very young at the time when this was going on, and now they're off in college and things like that. So the book tells a great story of your family and all the way through their growth. But can you tell us how that was a part of what it was that was important to you, like bringing in these other people like Danny and your family?
Yeah, no, definitely. So for anything in life, it's very hard to do it alone, right? You need a support network. I and when I started, one thing that I was clear in my mind was that the support network had to be my family.
Hmm.
If I could not engage them, the running career, the triathlon would put us apart and not bring us together, right? It's not uncommon to see people starting down that path of I'm going to do an Ironman, I'm going to do triathlons, I'm going to do ultra distance racing, and then marriage and family just take a second place, and then things don't go the right way, right? For me, that was clear, and how to do that was hard, right? Because people all have their own priorities and what they like to do and doesn't like and what they don't like. But for me, it was can I build that support network with them, even if it's not the fastest, even if
Hmm.
it's not the most efficient, right? But can I do that? Um, I could get a coach. I could join a running club. I could, right? Danny, I think, was a great buddy because our wives were close, right? They were friends. Our daughters were friends.
Hmm.
So we would go for races together. We would train together. They would meet us. That was great. And we were neighbors, both from Rio. So that was good. And but I would engage the kids
Right.
since early, very early. And I joke a lot today, half joking, right? Because I say on the beginning I would go for a run, and Sophia, and then Gabriel, but Sophia was 5, 6 years old. She would bike, have her whatever 16-inch bike, 14-inch bike, I don't
Right.
even remember. She would bike with me. I would go to a nice path in Pennsylvania, the bike path. I would do like 20K, 21K, and she would go. She was
Hmm.
like small and doing it, right? And for her, that was normal. That
Hmm.
was like she would stop, eat some granola bar, take some water. I would be running back and forth till she recovers, and then we would continue. It was fun.
Yeah.
She started growing up, and Gabriel, the same story, right? Then they become too fast on the bike, and they become a little bit bored because they're trying to keep up. And like I need to keep up with them, but like now they're much faster. And then they grow a little bit more. They start running with me, right? So we start running together, and I'm trying to get them on the right pace, and I'm have to wait for them, and it's okay. Now I'm in the phase that I'm almost getting. I think I need to get the bike to chase them, right?
Yeah.
Because they start there and like they go, so no, come on, wait. I saw the whole journey, right?
Yeah.
She was like the little one. I had to wait to push on the bike on the hills, and oh, we're together. Now you're faster. Come and run with me. Now I say, hey, where's my bike? I'm almost on that phase, right? So it's good for them. Was natural, right?
Yeah.
And today we do the triathlons together,
Hmm.
and we did a couple of them. We did the nationals together. We planning. We were ready for the nationals this year to do together with her, myself and her. But then it got canceled on the day. It
Oh.
didn't happen
Yeah.
because of rain and all of that. But it's been a fun experience, something we do together,
Hmm.
and
Yeah. You've been a great
and it
role
worked.
model.
When I look back, I said, okay, it worked, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not that if I push too hard, maybe I would get them away from it because they would hate, oh, that's something that forces me to do it.
Right.
I was trying to make it fun, so it's not easy. There is not like a straight answer. It's kind of more gray than right, but
Yeah.
but but it worked more art than science.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I think it's great the way you were able to um, have the family be such a big part of what you were doing. You know, many of the people I talk to, that's one of the things they give up is, you know, they spend their hours training and they're out on their own a lot of the time. And, you know, so they're giving up those family hours or they're finding other ways to bring in family hour times and you just incorporated it all together, which is fantastic. And I think it's obviously been a positive role modeling for your kids. They have both dabbled in this already. So, yeah, it's a good story.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's good. And that was so you mentioned I start running. I want to do a marathon. I did a marathon in much shorter time than I expected.
Mm,
Right? I expect to do a marathon in 3 years. I did like in 6 months,
right.
right? In less than 6 months. And I said, oh, I'm going to go for the Ironman. What for me was just some superhuman would do that. That's how I grew up, right? There was one person in Brazil that was a reference. She's like amazing, like Fernanda Keller. I remember growing up and looking at the TV would always be her doing this Ironman in Hawaii and all these kind of insane things for me. That's how I grew up thinking
Mm,
about triathlon and Ironman. I said I'm gonna go for it. And it was very hard, injuries and so on. But it was fun to do it. I was happy, and the family was proud. But I could see Jai and the kids; they were all proud and happy to be in the race. But there was limited engagement. When I tried the Ultraman at Canada, is where I think it's set
right.
because now they are part of it, and that was the main thing that attracted me to the Ultraman instead of the Ironman because I was not alone anymore.
Mm,
Right, the whole race and even preparation, it was not an individual sport; it's a team sport. And
right.
my team, as I mentioned in the book, was my family.
Yeah.
So we would discuss strategies. We do the first one's a big lesson. Everybody, right? We, it was so hard, and sleep deprivation, lack of food, and all wrong, right? We're not prepared. But the second one was great. They were great, right?
Mm,
And I finished because of them. And the third one is different, right? You have read the book. There were some issues on the swim, and they were perfect. I was not, and we
yeah.
didn't finish. But then they became a well-oiled machine. They know what to do, and
yeah.
they are engaged, and they had fun. They run with me. It's good. They supported me.
Mm,
So I think becoming a team sport, making triathlon a team sport, was what really led me to the Ultraman.
yeah. Well, let's kind of go through each one of these a little bit. We are 515 the Ultra podcast, so let's hear about these Ultraman races you were doing. I know in 2019 that when you came to Ultraman Canada, I was there helping out to organize the race at that time, as before I was the co-race director, and you say that you felt a little bit out of your league, that the briefing that I was giving was completely intense, and you were feeling the imposter syndrome with all the people in the room and their resumes, and you were just really not prepared for what it took to do that race. You told your family crewing would be simple, they'd have to see you every couple of hours. Tell us about how that race went for you.
Yeah. So I I wanted to do the Ultraman in Hawaii, but you need to qualify. You had to qualify, right? So Ultraman Canada was open, and I said, do you know what? I'm going to register. I don't know if they're going to accept me or not, invite me or not, but I'm going to try. I have done the Ironman less than 12 months. I have the distance. Let me try. I was not sure I would get in. I said, I'll register. If I get in, I get in. Right? Then I'll think about it. But I'll not, I didn't put too much thought into it. And then I registered a few days, weeks probably later. I got the email from Brad inviting to register. I said, oh, this is now serious. Let me talk to my wife. And then we went to talk to her. She was, oh, I'm not sure. And we were questioning. After a while, she was on board and she was, but what is this? I said, Ja, it's easy. It's easy. Don't worry about it. It's a place with a lot of wineries. You can spend time on the wineries with the kids. I need you to kayak for me for 10K in a lake. She looked at me. I never stepped inside a kayak. I don't know how to do it. I said, that would be easy. Come on, I'm swimming. You're a kayak. But she never had entered in a kayak before. I said, no, no, we'll manage that. Kayak is not a problem. And then every 3, 4, 5 hours we meet. So you refill my water bottles and change food and keep going. No, no rush, no stress. Then I got her to agree, right? That was the deal. And then I talked to my sister. She was in Brazil. I said, oh, I'm going to join. That's probably fun. I'll spend time with Jai on the wineries and the kids. I'll help her out. We'll meet you once in a while.
Yeah. This is
And
your
at
sister
work, my
Tata, right?
Tata, yeah,
Tata.
Tata.
Yeah.
And then my friend at work, I was working with Ion at that time. We have done one half Ironman together, one marathon. I told him, hey, I'm gonna do that. And he said, oh my gosh, this seems so hard. I said, you can crew for me if you want. I said, yeah, I'm gonna do that. I said, okay, good. So suddenly I had like a good crew, number of crew,
Yeah.
but no one had ever done it, right? And I had never done it. But I
Yeah.
said, okay, it's fine. It's okay, guys. I'll get the course. I'll load on my Garmin. Everything will be fine. Don't worry. I'll manage. You just need to meet me every so often. So change the water bottle. That was the message. And then we get to that briefing. And then there was so much detail. And oh, talking about that side of the road, that's I don't know, that shop, and like every the false flats and this. And I was looking at this. I said, look, guys, everyone knows what they're talking about. I have no clue. I said, okay, we have to look at this more seriously. It's not follow the course only. There's more to that. Oh, I forgot to miss that. I missed something.
Go ahead. Change it.
I registered and I was training not too much because I was working too much, but I was managing. And then the elevation profile was published.
Right.
If you, I don't remember, I don't know exactly when you joined, but the elevation profile was published after,
Yeah.
or at least I got to know after,
Yeah.
right? Maybe I didn't pay
It's
attention to it, but
yeah, it was the traditional course for a number of years, but yeah.
yeah, but like I have no idea. And when I look at the elevation profile, I said, I'm done. There's no way I can do this. Not because of the distance or the elevation, but the time. My average pace when I train the mountains here is 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 was about 15-20% below it needed to be for 3-4 times. I said the distance. I said it's a problem. But okay, but I consider not going to the race. We were talking to my wife before because look, it's gonna be too hard. I'm not training this elevation. And she was, oh, we signed up already. Let's go. I said, yeah, let's go. Fine. I think she was interested in the wine. And then she thought she would be spending time on the winery. And then we come to the briefing. Late, we were behind. I didn't know it was mandatory or didn't pay attention to it. And then we come late. They are looking for food. The kids are hungry. And all these details that you're presenting. And I'm trying to keep up. I'm looking at Yon. I'm looking at Tara. And we are like, look, what is he talking about? Right? And then there's this introduction of the athletes. I remember I had done 3 Ironman and I thought that was a lot. And then come these people, oh no, I have done my the best race is Badwater. I love that. And I said, what's Badwater? And then I look it up while in the call in the meeting, the presentation, and like 135 miles on the desert. I said, oh my gosh. And then people, oh, and by the way, I'm gonna do next week again. And 2 people, I think Mark and
Lucy.
Lucy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, both were like, I'm gonna do this weekend, and next weekend I'm gonna do this was the 515. I'm gonna do the 520.
Right.
That was the like there was some conflict. Which one would stay? One 520 was going away. They decided to stay, right?
Yes.
And I'm looking. these guys are going to do this today, this weekend, and in 5 days from now, they're biking, they're doing everything again. And I'm saying, look, I don't belong here. Everyone that presented there, oh, my favorite race was either Badwater or the Ironman World Championship. That was kind of most of it. I said, oh, if I look at my time in Ironman, I'm so far from being qualified, right? For me, I said, this is not my group. I'm going to be in trouble here, right? And I said, that's going to be hard. I really, really felt out of place, right? I felt, okay, I'm not built for this. I don't think I should even start. But you're there, you travel all the way there. I said, I'm gonna go for it.
Yeah.
At least I'm gonna do it. But it was hard. It was a wake up call, I would say. Um, and then we went for day one. Day one was very, very hot. Temperature was like on 45 Celsius, right? A lot of wildfire. The course changed because of wildfires. Um, I started to swim. I did the 10K swim. Swim is by far my best sport.
Right.
Not that it's great, but it's better than the other ones. I had a challenge on the swim because I had trained in Santa Cruz for the long runs. There was salty water. When I did at Okanagan, I kind of felt I missed the salt, right? I was not prepared for salt.
Mm-hmm.
I probably drank too much water. I missed the salt. I was not prepared for it. So I finished the swim a little bit down. I was planning to do like 320, 310 was more like, I think like 340. But I needed 45 minutes to recover, to eat and recover before I can get on the bike. And then I finished the bike that I thought would be easy because it was just 145 kilometers.
Right.
Very hot. My head would explode. It was so hot. I would stop to meet the crew and they would throw ice on my back, on my head. I would not even feel it. And I had a flat tire. And then I finished, but it was way harder than I thought. Um, I started having a lot of fever and feeling bad and almost throwing up when I arrived at the Airbnb. It was all this, a lot of sun and it was hard,
Yeah.
right? Like sunstroke and I remember talking to my wife saying, I don't think I can start tomorrow. Look, if 145 kilometers was like that, can you imagine 276? I can't do it.
Right.
And she was, and then she was about to say not to do it. And I remember my sister would come say, go for sleep. You sleep like a rock every time. You don't even move. You just pass out and wake up the next day. You're gonna be fine. Tomorrow we'll talk. We are the ones that don't sleep that easy. It's gonna be hard for us. I said, come on. I went to bed, but I didn't even remember much. And then when I woke up for the next day, I didn't remember where I was, what was happening. And then my wife was bringing me when we were talking to her. Oh, I have to race today and all of that. And she was, are you really gonna do it? I said, oh, I am because I really woke up feeling fresh. When I went to stand up from the bed, no, it was hard. I said, oh, that's gonna be hard. But I did it. I said, let's do it. Let's get started. I did a big mistake because I just didn't know, right? And then what we did was no one was ready. So I asked Dion to drive me to the starting line. And then the crew would be ready. And then he would come back to meet me, to pick them up and meet me later. And it then like was very hard. I almost did not start. And then, everyone lined up, the guy go, right? The gun went off and I said, look, I gotta go. What am I gonna do? I'm gonna just quit. And then I started doing and it felt good. It didn't feel bad. I think the adrenaline and I said, look, maybe I can do that. And then I started pushing. I remember I was very close and a little bit ahead of Mark at that time. I remember for me, a reference, or my pace was Mark. That was the reference I was having, right, on the bike. And I could leave him behind and I was doing well, feeling great. We were kind of in the second group. There was the first group, they went off, like Jordan and a few folks
Yeah.
that ended up
I'm
winning,
glad
right?
you didn't try and keep up with Jordan.
No, that would not be smart. That would be a very fast decision to quit afterwards.
Yeah.
So I was like trying to keep. I said like this guy has done before because we talked, right? So look, if I'm on his like neighborhood, I'm in the game. But and I was pushing, it was going well, and then a flat tire, right? And I said, oh gosh, no crew, nothing. I had filled the tires with sealant. I said, look, maybe I'll just load the air here, see what happens. And it held. I said, okay, let's go. But like another hour and a half later, another flat tire. And the reason for all these flat tires was I was so concerned with the time, right? That the pace to close that all the elevation and everything 12 hours, I went for the fastest tire that I could find. And I said, look, this is going to hold for a day. And I don't need to hold for a week, just a day. But it didn't.
Yeah.
But it did not. It doesn't. I remember it was Vittoria Corsa. And it's built for like indoor kind of track.
Right.
The stones, the little rocks, stick to it, and then once the more you pedal, the more the wheel goes, right? The tire, it starts passing through the tire and then punctures. It's
Right.
not that you hit a puncture; it's just a normal rock that does it. But I didn't know that, and so that was a flaw on my strategy, and I didn't know. So I had to pump the tire again, and then I had to stop and change the tire. So I had a lot of tire travel. You mentioned Jordan, right? Um, when I finished, like race was finished, he won. We were sitting side by side, just chatting, and I mentioned that I had all these tire challenges. And he said, "What tire did you use?" And then I said, "Oh, I came with Vittoria Corsa." And he said, "Oh, you did the same. I did the same thing you did in Cozumel, 2000 and I think 14, the race I did, the first Ironman." He
Yeah.
said, "I did the same thing." And then he was like, "And I had 5 flats and quit the race because I could not do it." I said, "Great. You are just 5 years ahead of me. That's okay, right? I'm 5 years behind you because I'm not the only guy. I didn't feel that stupid anymore, right?" I said, "Look,
Yeah.
the guy is winning this race. He did the same mistake 5 years ago. I get it,
Yeah.
right? But like, it's just a matter of experience."
And he went on to win the world championship that year as well.
You went to, yeah, he did that. He did that, and was awesome. So I didn't finish. So in the end, with all the tire challenge, I remember everyone was concerned with the wall, the infamous wall,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I saw people walking the bike on the wall. It's very challenging for us. Very beautiful place. Very beautiful area. We love. I would never be to British Columbia for vacation. I was not planning to do that, but we love it. We love the lakes. We love the mountains. The ride was beautiful. Very challenging, but the wall was fine. It was just a hill, right? A big hill in incline. What for me was very, very difficult was the wind. When you come down the other side of the wall,
Yeah.
and that corridor of wind that
You're in the
doesn't matter, you
valley.
turn left, right, the valley is just like headwind all the time. And that part I was surprised. I was not expecting. And then I would see my average, right? My speed. I said, guys, this is not looking good and pushing. In the end, missed by 8 minutes that day,
Hmm.
right? And I was the first one that didn't make the cut, right? Mark was the last one to make it, and then I didn't make
Mm.
it. And and like I was very, very frustrated. But on the other hand, I was I was proud because Young came to me and said, "Look, I think you're built for this. looking how much you train, how much mistakes we all did in this race,
Hmm.
the wind that was there in like 8 minutes. I think you can do this. And that's how I left there. Left that day. I said, look, I think it was very close. If I had the experience, I'm sure I had. It was not about having the physical or the mental strength to do it. It was the experience.
Yeah.
And so that's how I left the second day. Brad came, said, "Oh, run tomorrow, everybody, run tomorrow. It's okay." Just and I went for a run and it was horrible, right? Like it was very hard because I was all stiff, not motivated. Right?
Yeah.
It's hard. Like 84 kilometers, and then with 60, 64, I decided to walk a little bit to recover and could never run again. I
Yeah.
walked too long, too much. So it was a very difficult time on that marathon. That marathon felt worse than the bike for me because when I finished, I didn't finish, right? And the bike I finished was a matter of details with two flat tires, another stop, and this normal sequences. I know I'd had finished. The run, I didn't. I did not finish. Um, and when I finished that race, I said, no, I'm close enough. I'm going to do another one.
Yeah.
And then I went for Florida. And we were much better prepared.
Hmm.
And there was one event, right? So I was working at Google at that time, and I was on the cycling distribution list. That's good. You're there, you see what's happening, and people invite for rides and all that. And someone wrote asking about, "Hey, I'm gonna do my first Ironman. Any tips?" And then I replied with what I thought would be helpful for
Right.
her, things that I had learned on my Ironman. And then I wrote in the end very like I didn't believe would have any results, but I put there, does anyone has experience with Ultraman? I probably need help. I didn't finish one and I'm trying going for the second one. And I let that happen, right? I said, well, no one who at Google is going to be doing Ultraman, right? Um, and then a guy replied, copying Rob, right?
Yeah.
Say, oh, you just have Rob Gray, the world champion. I said, well, right? And then Rob replied very kindly, right? It was very nice. He says, "Oh, great. We can meet up for lunch and then we can talk and so on." I said, "Yes, of course, right?"
Hmm.
So it was the first time I was meeting someone that had done, and I had never talked to anyone,
Yeah.
but from the race that had done, right, to get coaching.
Yeah.
So
Now,
we meet,
for people that might not know, you're speaking of
yeah,
Rob Gray. He was the 2017 world champion. He was also on the podcast back in season 4, episode 13. Great guy, lots of information, and unfortunately for you, this was before the podcast existed. So you didn't have this ability to get information about Ultraman.
no,
Lucky for you, you were able to hook up with Rob Gray.
was luck, and you're right, there was not, right, for the first. But for Hawaii, I had the podcast and helped me a lot.
Mm,
I'll tell you how, right? But then I met with Rob. He was very helpful. A lot of recommendations, right?
yeah.
And sharing his own stories. And I remember three things specifically, right? One of them was I was not training a lot during the week because I was working too much, and then I felt I had to offset that by going very long the weekends. And he said, forget about that. Don't do that. You need to count the week mileage, not the day. The day doesn't matter. You can stay on the bike 12 hours, doesn't matter, right? So I start planning for the whole week mileage and not for days long mileage. Like you do in a marathon, that oh, I have to hit 36 or I have to, right? You don't have that long ride that you have to do. You need to have volume per week. That was his first point, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's more important volume per week than what you do in a single day. That was one, so I adjusted my plan. And then the second one um, that he told me was both for the run. The second one was I don't go for a run. I don't run straight. I go for run, walk, right? And then he was like very fast describing his strategy. I start with 8.5, 1.75 seconds, and this. In the end, he was like, "Look, do like 9 minutes, 1 minute,"
Right.
and I remember thinking to myself, right, when I started running and did the marathons and did all these races, I would never allow me to walk on a race, right, on a run.
Hmm.
Maybe because I would not feel a runner if I was walking, right, or something, right, and or maybe I'm not tough enough because I'm walking, right, whatever, right. And I'm seeing across the world champion say, "Oh, the best thing is because I walk." And I said, "Look, yeah." Sometimes you like, yeah, like feel like stupid, right? And I said, "Look, yeah." And then he's saying, "Look, you gotta save your legs. So walk in the beginning, do five, like 10 minutes, 1 minute, sometimes do 8.5, 1.5, and describe his strategy, and so on. And then you reduce that over time, right? And then the last 21K, you probably just run because it becomes very hard to start and stop, but at
Hmm.
least you saved your leg. Because if you go running too much, and then you're dragging yourself. And he was describing all that, and then that helped me a lot.
Right.
I think it's making breaking a mental barrier that I could walk,
Right.
right? On the run, that was actually smart to do that early on instead of dragging myself afterwards. Um, so that was one. And the other one, he was always very efficient on training. I could see that how he managed. He's someone I think of myself as someone that always try to be efficient on things and can do a lot of things at the same time. I could see his thoughts. He's always looking for efficient ways to train, efficient ways to race, efficient ways to engage his family as well. And then he was like, "Look, the best way to train for a long run is not doing a long run before, but start with a downhill run. That's going to wear down your quads. And then you do another 20, 30, 40 kilometers after that. Like if you, and then he'll say, run till it's done after you do the 10K downhill. He lived in the area before. He's now living in Boulder. So, but he knew the area, the mountain. He said, go to Page Mill Road, run that down, and then run till your legs are done.
Yeah.
Once you do that once or twice, you're ready for the ultra. You finish the ultra without problem. And that's a strategy I use for Florida. 6 weeks before, I went to Page Mill Road. It's like a 13-kilometer downhill, steep, can get up to 15, 16%, right? And and I did that, and then did to complete 50K, and then was 6 weeks before the race, and it helped. So these three things helped me a lot when I
Right.
met Rob. Um, and then I really felt ready for Florida
Yeah.
based on that. I got the right tire, I got the right volume per week, and I got the right training and strategy for the run.
Yeah.
So I
And you
thought,
got a
okay, I
crew
can
that
do
now
Florida.
has experience, which is
Yeah,
probably one of the bigger ones as well. Because you brought back the
yeah.
same crew, correct?
Same crew. Everybody wanted to go back. And I said,
Yeah.
are you guys sure you want to go back? And they were, no, now we're gonna do this.
Yeah.
And
But you still, even though you've had all this and you've psyched yourself up to do it, I just want to share some of your times with the people that are listening because you push the limits, my friend. Like
oh yeah,
on day 2 you were an 11:44,
yeah,
and on,
yeah,
on day 3 that crew would have been pulling their hair out because you were 11:54. So
yes,
your
yeah.
walk run strategy, yeah, I'm sure at points they were calling it into question, and maybe
Yeah.
you were
Oh, they
too.
were very stressed. Everybody was very stressed about it. Yeah, that's right. That's right. So go for Florida. The first day, the swim, it's okay. I make time on the swim, so I can kind of cool down on the bike on the first day, right? I don't need to push too hard,
Yeah.
and I finish on time. The swim was challenging because a storm came in, and flip kayaks and slow down the kayaks, not so much the swimmers. So I would have to wait. My wife, she was in a kayak and she could not move because it was too windy and she was struggling, and I would wait for her to catch up with me. So the swim was hard for the kayakers. There was one that flipped twice or three times and sank, and then the athlete had to quit the swim. So my wife was safe. She was good. She was with a lot of pain on her elbow afterwards and complaining with me for a long time. I had to hear that, but was okay. And day one finished okay as expected. Day two, I knew was hard. Right, I knew it was very hard. The pace and but better than Canada. Canada was more elevation. Um, but but I was managing well. I could manage. I could see that I was about to finish. And and then it was starting to get dark. I still had time. I knew I would finish. So I kind of took the goggles out, the glasses out, and because it's getting dark, I slowed down. I said, "Look, there's one goal now. Be ready for tomorrow, right?" I told my crew, "Stay back. Last 40, last hour, I was much slower, very high cadence." I said, "I have to get ready for that run because day two in Canada, if I did not have the flats, I knew I would have finished. But I knew I would not have finished the run in Canada. I knew that I did not finish. I tried and locked, and I said, they chose behind me with like an hour and so on. I said, my challenge is going to be this run.
Right.
And I know it's challenging. And it was. I I did the walk run strategy, and I kind of knew my pace, and I was, look, I'm gonna let you sprint to the last 21K. And I know how much I can do in the 21K. I can do that if I need under 2 hours. So I'm gonna pace myself to be before that. But at that time, when the last 21K arrived, my crew met Slava, that was an athlete that they
Mm-hmm.
had met in
In
Canada.
Canada as well. Yeah.
And she was, are you guys doing what you need to do? Are you driving your athlete? Are you pushing him? He doesn't know what's happening. He's tired. He's exhausted, right? She gave them a very hard time.
Mm-hmm.
So they like got desperate and they said, oh, he's not going to finish that. I didn't know any of that because I'd never stopped running. And for me, it was all about, look, I cannot go too high on heart rate. I was under control. I knew I would finish, right? But I was under control. But they got desperate and they start pushing. Oh, we have to go and this. I said, guys, we'll do it. We'll do it. We'll do it. And then I said, look, it's fine. I'm gonna do it because I can do this. I can do. I was very conscious the whole time, but I knew it was coming close, cutting close, right?
Mm-hmm.
I said, I'm gonna sprint maybe, and then 21. I said, I don't need to sprint. I can still do it. I'm gonna sprint the last 10K. I'll do in less than an hour. I'll be done. And then last 10K, I look, I have more than an hour. I'm not gonna sprint. Why? Why I'm gonna do it? And then I start holding, and then in the end, I said, people are like, are you really gonna finish? I said, yeah, I'm gonna finish. I was not my legs were fine.
Yeah.
I said, I'm gonna sprint. I remember talking to my wife and the kids, and they last mile they come together, right?
Yeah.
And then let's sprint. I said, I'm gonna sprint when I see the finish line. Because if I get injured, if something snap on my leg, I can still finish. I'm not gonna do it now.
Yeah.
I'm not. Not. And then a lot of people came, heard around for running in the end. It was very nice because I think everyone expected me to be completely wiped out, but I was not. I was kind of preserving myself for the. I was preserving myself for a sprint that I did not need to do,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then when I saw that finish line, I said, "Okay, guys, let's go. Let's sprint. Let's do this." And when I started running, we started leaving everybody behind. Everybody, right? No one could keep up. And my wife and my kids said, "What happened? Where were you?" I said, "Look, guys, I was saving myself. That's what I took from Rob, right? I did not wanna. The worst thing is wipe me out like in the first 42K, and then I can't finish this.
Right.
And then we finish, as you mentioned, like 5 minutes, right? 6 minutes to go. But in my mind, I was never afraid. I was very conscious,
Yeah.
I knew I would finish. And when I crossed that finish line, I remember, look, look, it's possible. I did it,
Yeah.
right? Um, I felt very, very, very proud, right? I was very happy. Um, was harder than the Ironman, much harder, because like multiple days, you have to engage the people, so many weather element challenge you have to face, so long on the bike. But I was very happy, very excited, and the whole team, the whole crew, and said, okay, now we go for the world, right?
Hmm.
We go for Kona, for the Big Island.
Yeah.
Um, but it was amazing. That experience was a lot, very very good, and the whatever 45-minute lunch with Rob helped me a lot
Yeah.
to get ready for it. Um, After that, COVID hit a month later. That was February. I did that in February 2020.
Hmm.
March 2020, lockdown,
Yeah.
all race canceled, everything. And after I finished Canada, or didn't finish Canada, I wanted to do Florida. My wife was more on the camp. No, give more time. Let's postpone this.
Hmm.
I never like to give time because something can happen, right? And then deviate. And I said, no, no, we're gonna do. And then we did it, and I was very happy because of that. Otherwise, we'll never gone back because okay, you didn't finish. You have COVID.
Right.
You have to restart everything. So took I think 2 years for the Ultraman world to come back. They canceled 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
They canceled 2020, 2021. So they came back in 2022. And I registered for that. Um, and I trained a lot, a lot. I would listen to your podcast all the time. And a lot of known people that was in that Canada, right?
Yeah.
Briefly, a lot of stories. Um, he helped me a lot, a lot. I remember, and I forgot his name now, the Japanese athlete. I think it's a Japanese athlete. He mentioned that one of like normally you finish asking what's the one thing you recommend or you advise people, right? And
Hmm.
he was, do not underestimate the swim. Even if you're a good swimmer, do not underestimate the swim. For somehow that got stuck on my mind.
Hmm.
I trained like the sport I probably least needed least training was swimming, and was the one I trained the most.
Yeah.
I said, look, I have to train this thing, right? There's a reason people are afraid of the swim there. It's go open ocean. You start from a bay, go open, then come back on a bay. This is not a lake swim. It's not a bay swim that I do in Santa Cruz or even here in San Francisco. I said, look, I trained a lot, a lot.
Yeah.
I was I was doing open water. I was doing the pool with the wetsuit in the pool, wetsuit, open water. I was not like my shape was very good, and especially on the swim for that race.
Yeah.
And the crew was already everyone like we had food for everybody. I didn't have to steal the crew's food because I was sick of all my own food. That happened in Canada, right?
Yeah.
Look, when I left that swim, I forgot to mention
Yeah.
I was so nauseous and didn't feel good. I stole this sandwich, so they didn't have anything to eat during the day. So the kids were eating what I was preparing for me for the race, loaded of sugar and caffeine in the car, in the van. It was a mess,
Yeah.
right? This time, no, had sandwich for me, for them,
Yeah.
food, gels, like everything was set.
Yeah.
And I went a few days before to Big Island. with my sister and Gabriel, my daughter and my wife. My daughter had school; she could not go. I went a few days early. I drove the course, right? I did everything. I studied everything. I was like, perfect. I'm gonna do that. Nothing's gonna stop me. Uh, and then we go for the day. We do the check-in. We go and then day one starts. Um, I wake up whatever 5 in the morning, 4:35, and then I get an email from the kayaker that is supposed to go with me, and then hey, I'm feeling sick. I'm not gonna join. I said, oh, great, great start.
Yeah.
Then I text Cheryl, right, and she said already working on it. I said, good, fine. And I would stay. I stayed this time and both times at the courtyard that you see the starting line, right? The swim.
Right.
Like I'm there. I can see, and I can see people arriving. I can see. I try to make logistics easy, right?
Right.
As easy as it can be. And then we said, hey, we have a challenge. You have to go down. So we went down there, and there was no kayaker. And then she was working on that. And like, how do you pick someone now to kayak 10 kilometers
At
on
five
the
o'clock in the
open
morning.
water, 5 o'clock in the morning, and like, oh my gosh. And then the stress building up and all of that. Everyone on the water already, and then comes someone. Oh, I found someone. It was a friend of someone that was helping Cheryl, and the person was kind of very nice person, was a great human being for doing that, but had no experience, right?
Right.
When I said that, I said, hey, you have to give me all this food during the, and she said, oh, do I have to give you something? Yes. What? I said, don't worry, I'll tell you along the way. And I said, look, you're going to start from the beach. I start from the pier. We'll meet over there. I said, oh, I know, you're kind of tall and this, I'll be on the water. You can't see me. I'll yell the number very loud all the time. Memorize the number, yell back the number. We'll find each other. Said, okay, good. And then as I'm start entering the water, the horn went up, like time to go, and everybody's swimming, and I'm catching up. And then I start swimming. It comes the place where you meet, like whatever, 100 yards, 200 yards on the front. And then I start yelling the number. You can't see, it's kind of still dark, and you see all these people, they all look the same from the water. And I started yelling my number. No, not this, not this. I said, okay, what do I do? And and then I'll continue swimming, and she's gonna find me because kayak is much faster. And then I start continue swimming, and then another kayak come, and then I yell my number, nothing. And I say, look, I think I'm in trouble here. Right? I think she's not gonna show up. She quit. What can I do? I was just looking at the kayaks in front. I said, I'm gonna follow that because that's the path, and I'll just go. No support. I'll just go, keep going till someone get me out of the race because you cannot run swim without support. But I'll try to hide myself in here and keep swimming. And then the would come like a small boat or the jet ski, right, in Czech. I said before he asked anything, I'll say just ask, find my kayaker, and then I'll give the number. Keep swimming. I said, look, I'll not look too much before. I'll not make eye contact. I don't want this guy pulling me off the race, right? And then I'll find her. I said, great. And then I keep swimming, but then the spread starts spreading out. Like the people, when I was looking at the kayak, it was far. So I'm looking at the mountain now, and like alone in that ocean. I said, doesn't matter. I'm not gonna stop. And then I'm gonna swim this. I knew I had to be by like 7 to 8 kilometers at a certain time because the currents would turn. And if you are slower than that,
Right.
it becomes exponentially harder because you're now against the current, right? So I said, look, I have to push. I have to push. I was planning to finish in 3 hours or sub 3 hours, what would be a great time, right? And I said, look, I gotta push. I gotta push. And before the current turn, forget about food. I'm gonna make this, and then I'll recover on the bike. And then about an hour, she found me. I saw she found me, and then she found me. And then the story is she was afraid to go alone, so she had to find one more good soul to join her on that kayak,
Right.
on a double kayak to go with me, and that took time, of course,
Yeah.
right? And then when she arrived, I said, "Okay, good. No one's gonna pull me out of the race. I can finish this." And then she arrived. I said, "Look, it's been a while, right? Since I'm pushing hard. I got water, drink some water, and then I swallow some food, right, more than normal because I was trying to recover. Things didn't settle well when I started eating, right? Because maybe I did too fast, was shaking because you're now on the outside of the bay and things shaking and the ocean's kind of hard and you're trying to go fast. The waves sometimes you swallow more water than you should, right?
Yeah.
And then and then like, oh, this thing is not feeling great. But I said, look, but I have to be there by 2 hours, otherwise this is going to be exponentially hard. And I'm there swimming, 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 and the nausea starts building up, and I'm said, look, do I slow down? I look at my heart rate is very high. I did another mistake. I like the full wetsuit because I'm much faster, but it's so warm.
Yeah.
And I think that was a problem to keep my heart rate down because temperature was high. So everything building, right? Too much food quickly, the ocean mix going up and down, right? Very, very hard, swallowing water, the stress that I had to go through. At a certain point, I said, look, I then reduced the pace. And at a certain point, I just could not handle, right? And then I started like feeling bad. I stopped, and then it like started throwing up, right? And I said, look how, and it was horrible, horrible, right? I was very bad, feeling horrible. They stopped by my side, and I was like trying to hold on the kayak. The kayak would bump on my head, and like all this, because you're on the ocean and
Yeah. Yeah.
open ocean, and she's like raising her hand to call for support, right? And I'm saying, no, don't do that. Don't do that. No, 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 don't do that. These guys are gonna pull me out of the race. Don't do that. Like, I'm okay. I'm gonna recover. But I could not say that because I was throwing up and having all these issues. And then once we finally got down, I said, no, no, I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna be okay. And he said, fine. They were scared, both of them, of course,
Yeah.
right? And like the guy's gonna drown here, and then I said, okay, I'm okay. I'm better. I'm gonna start swimming back. And then I start swimming. I did half in an hour and a half, like 5K an hour and a half. The other 5K took me 3 hours. And I would stop all the time,
Mm-hmm.
all the time. I said, I just go slow. So I keep my heart rate very low. I'll glide to the water. Yeah. But then you don't move because the current had turned.
Right.
So I would swim that transparent water from Hawaii is great. I would look at the bottom one, two, three times, and then I'm over the same
Same
rock,
rock.
right? And I'm like, okay, this is not working. And then I would have to push. Every time I would push, I would move. My heart rate would spike, and then I would have to stop, throw up, and then come back. So it was like a grind.
Mm.
That next 3 hours was like very, very hard. And all the way to the end, right? I remember stopping so many times, and then when it was not that bad, I would just I'm swimming, I would turn to the back, swim backwards, throw up, and then keep swimming. I said, look, if I'll not finish if I don't do that,
Yeah.
it was very hard, very hard. When I left that water, I so when I was arriving there, Taka came to pick me up from the water, right, to meet me there.
Mm.
I felt like twice. I was completely dehydrated. I was dizzy. I could not see water, food, anything. It was like very bad.
Mm.
And then my wife started like she started holding me to stand and to go to the bike. And Jai was, now go to the bike. There is water for you, fresh water to clean. I said, you don't understand. Look, I can't go up. I can't climb this bike right now.
Yeah.
So I had to go to the restroom. I took a shower. I kind of recomposed myself. I remember looking in the mirror and said, look, I look like half of what I started, right? Because I was so depleted.
Mm.
The right thing to do there certainly was to stop,
Right.
right? We all know that. And I thought about that, right? But look, train so much, you do so much, you're there with a family. Tata had traveled from Brazil to Hawaii just for that race, and she was
Mm.
coming back. She was not enjoying anything. I said, look, if it's not for me, at least for them, I'm going to do this,
Yeah.
and I'm going to go back on that bike.
I
In
see.
the end, I went back, took some pop and like some soda while biking. I almost fell in the beginning, and it was very hard, but I could like recompose myself gently. And then after the big downhill, like was a big hour and a half uphill struggling. After the downhill adrenaline, I said, I'm gonna do this. And then I really, really, I gave it all out. I said, look, I'm gonna bike as there is no second or third day because otherwise I'm not gonna make it. I caught up a lot of time, but ended up missing that day for 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
Mm. Yeah.
And because I started cramping up on the hill on the last on the final stretch,
Yeah.
I was depleted, dehydrated, cramping up. I could see it. I knew I could do it, but the legs didn't. Then I missed for 3 minutes. And it was horrible, right? So much training. It's different in
Mm.
Canada. Canada was unprepared.
Right.
This time I was super prepared.
Yeah.
And the family, and so it was a very difficult moment. We finished, um, decided, should we look, what do we do now? Do we stop, right? Call Ironman done, Ultraman career done. My wife was in camp of that. Look, you already did an Ultraman, you're good, you don't need to come to this. It's too much effort. But I said, look, what example I'm giving if I go there, try it, fail, and don't do it again, right? And don't finish.
Right.
And I really wanted to do that. So in the end, we agreed, and I decided to go back in 2023.
Yeah.
But I said, okay, for this time, I'm gonna call that old friend called Rob Gray and said, hey Rob, what about becoming my coach so I don't have to do
Yeah.
everything by myself? And that was very helpful, very, very good, because
Yeah.
then made training more efficient, preparation more efficient, and other knowledge, right? What type of wetsuit and a lot of things that are not written that people do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you learn that whatever. I think 90% of the people that take anti-nausea medicine before swimming. I didn't know that, right? No one talks about this, right? No one published that on Facebook, right? But I look it up. Is it banned or not? It's not banned. You can take it and all of that. But no one talks about it, right? So there were a lot of good pieces of information that he gave me, right? He
Mm-hmm.
would say, look, get one or two cokes in the kayak. If things start getting bad, get that. So there was all these tricks
Right.
that you had to live through that, and
Or
it
or
helped.
listen to the podcast, which I know you were getting
Yes,
some tips there, but maybe not
I
all of
got
them.
a lot. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And he was like, okay, once you start, take that cap off, right? No one's gonna look for the cap, and that's gonna help you a lot with the heat, right? Like, and then if you look at that race, a lot of people already start without the cap because it's so warm the water, and
Mm.
it makes a difference. So there are all these kind of things that you need to experience, right? The
Yeah.
podcast helps for sure. So in the end, it helped a lot. and it was hard. It was very difficult, but could make it.
Yeah.
Swimming had 10-foot waves, 10 feet waves on the first day, so it was way worse than the year before. But I did it without any nausea, um, and then finished the bike. Not a lot of time left, right? But I was under control. I was not stressed. I was very afraid of day two because day two is long and I feel there's a lot of risk. You are sleep deprived,
Hmm.
big busy roads, right? And but was I would say the best Iron Ultraman day I have ever had was that day two. Um, the year before, that's like a small trick, but I think a lot of people may benefit from this. The year before, when I did not finish, I missed for 3 minutes. I went for day two to go down the mountain,
Hmm.
the volcano, Kilauea. I wanted to time how long it would take it because the next year I could do the math and like I was trying to
Right.
calculate in my head. I said I want to do that and then I'll go. But then I was very slow on that day. I was going down very slow Kilauea. Everyone was leaving me behind. I said, look, I'm demotivated. I get it, but I'm still pushing. And even I was like pedaling hard, I could not keep up. After 30 minutes or 25, 30 minutes, I had a flat tire without crossing, without puncture. It was just, the flat that comes from
Yeah.
inside out, right? That you hit a hole.
Hmm.
But I didn't hit a big hole, and I was trying to understand. I never could make sense of that. And in day two of the second year, I left the bike on the car because I was too tired. And then I went to the car to get the bike to pump up the tires for day two. When I started doing that, I brought the bike inside the home to
Hmm.
pump up the tires. And then it was very cold outside, the volcano altitude. And then I came to the warm at the home. I said, let me pump up the tire. And then I could understand what happened the year before and would happen again this year. I was doing that in a warm temperature. When I would go outside, the tire, the pressure is not the same. The
Exactly.
cold
Yeah.
temperature would lower the pressure. And my tire pressure was way lower on the day two the first year, right? And I didn't know.
Right.
So I took it out. I emptied both tires, filled it with the cold air, and I really flew that day. Right? It was amazing.
Mm.
I finished it and I knew it was cold, so it was perfect condition for me. Going downhill, I said, look, I'm gonna make time on the beginning. I finished that Kilauea. My wife thought I was a second, right? I said, I'm gonna do this.
Mm.
And then there was a rain. I think all in cold temperature, I was much faster than the other ones. And then when heated up, and then I start to slow down, but I knew I would finish. And I finished with over an hour left, and it was very good. And then just had the double marathon on extreme heat to deal with.
Hmm.
It was a very difficult race, the last day, very difficult. But one thing that Rob again suggested and helped me a lot, he remember I mentioned that I was doing these downhill runs and this was helping me getting ready to a certain extent, because if it was too close to the race, it would wear me down and took me too long to recover. So I had a few races, especially Ironman California and Sacramento, that I could not run, right? And that was 4 weeks before the Ultraman. And we figured out that was the reason and so on. So one of the mitigation actions that Rob gave me was, okay, one thing that you could do, I know you didn't train that way, but trust me, it's going to help you. And I said, oh my gosh, you start with one shoes that is more cushion, was the Bondi, right? The Rocker, the 101 Bondi,
Yeah.
and then switch halfway through and get something that is lighter, less cushion, but lighter for the
Hmm.
second marathon. I was kind of scared about it, and and it took me a while to do it. I dragged all the way to 60, 65K when I did it, but it felt fresh. It felt like fresh legs.
Right.
Was amazing. I said, why don't I'm going to do that in every race now because it felt really, really good. So it in the end finished. This time, not only 6 minutes left on the double marathon, it was more like 15. But was very good. I
Yeah.
think everyone was very happy and excited about it.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about you picked up some lessons off the podcast. Thank you for sharing your lessons as well, because there is somebody out there who was that's in your shoes now, that was, at the time, who doesn't know all the little tips and tricks, and is probably listening to get those. So your tips and tricks are just added now to the catalog for the people that listen every episode. They get them all. So thank you for adding those in, and thanks to
Thank you.
Rob for giving those
Yeah,
to you.
yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah. Um, you know, when I was looking at your book, and speaking of, tips and tricks and people coming for things, I don't know that your book would necessarily be written for uh, an Ultraman person, because I think the story is already known. However, I think it's probably more written for someone who, when you tell them about Ultraman and and the distances, and they're like, "Oh, that's crazy! I could never do that." There's inspiration in it to maybe not do an Ultraman, but to make a change that's going to make a change for them. I think that's what I took away from it. It's not a. I mean, Ultraman is how you're telling the story, but it's more about taking that first step, having that grit, that resilience to make that change. And I don't know. Was that the purpose behind what you were looking at?
Yeah, yeah. I did not want to convince anyone that the Ultraman was the best thing in the world and everyone should do the Ultraman.
Yeah.
I wanted to inspire people to do things they don't believe they can do it,
Yeah.
right? To do, hey, change is possible. You can do it. If you have the discipline, you can do it. Like
Hmm.
go start moving. It's gonna be it's gonna be good for you. And I mentioned that on one of the last chapters when I mentioned about the kids. Like
Mm.
my son is way more in soccer than tryout. That's okay. That's not a problem, right?
Yeah.
It's good for him, right? And we 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 help him be successful in that aspect.
Hmm.
But you're right. I think it's about transformation. I think the Ultraman is kind of the background of the story,
Yeah.
right? And the transformation and taking bad things that happen, turning into positive is the main thing in the transformation along the way.
Hmm.
It's less about like it's about the journey, but also the person you become after that. I
Right.
think that's the important part too.
Yeah.
And the people you connect. I finished the book kind of thanking all the people, right? Not like in a formal way, but like mentioning the impact they had in different stages
Right.
on the beginning with Danny, the support of the family, right? People that helped me like when I got injuries, a lot of people that helped me with the book, and friends that they spent a lot of time reading things that were not book ready and
Right.
providing feedback. So all of that I try to finish saying, look, it's not only about me, but all these people that I met along the way and the impact I had on their life, they had on my life
Hmm.
in development. That's what I try to pass in the
Yeah.
end. Right in the
And
book.
we get to see your children grow up through the book as well. Like that's
Yes.
so that they get to the point now where they're, hopefully taking in some of the lessons learned and applying it to their own lives. It's
Yeah.
a good journey for sure. For the people that are watching on YouTube, I'm going to just put up an Amazon link here, and they can hit that QR code and find your book on Amazon. And if you're listening to the podcast, just you have to search it up. It's easy enough to find. Is it available in other places other than Amazon? And what formats is it available in?
No, I have right now an Amazon. I just published on Amazon. I have a different place for physical store, but I didn't advertise on publishing that too much yet.
Okay.
So Amazon, um, it has the hardcover with nicer pictures. It has the soft cover, soft back, what is easier for read and to carry around, but
Hmm.
the quality of the pictures are a little bit less. And then has the Kindle version, right?
Mm.
The digital book version. For the next, I'm working on the Audible and the Portuguese translation.
That's
So
what
I
I
still
was
have
going
to
to ask.
publish
Are you
that.
releasing it in
Yeah,
Portuguese as well? Yeah.
I am. I am. I have the version. I'm still editing. It's very hard. It's very hard because I got a professional translator to do it. It felt was not my voice,
Oh, okay.
and I'm sure that's how I sound in English, but that's not how I would sound in Portuguese.
Mm.
So I'm struggling how much I want to edit and change that, become more Portuguese version.
Right.
But it will come soon.
Mm. Great.
Yeah.
And what's next, athletic career wise for you?
Yeah, I have a few. I have an Ironman coming up, Ironman California again, that happens here in Sacramento. It's going to be a restart this race. Next year I turn 50, and I think for a long time I have not done. I'm going to focus more on time, try to lower that time, maybe do my PR on the marathon, PR on the Ironman. I think that's the goal. Um, and 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 I'm looking to build for the ultra races. There are two in California that I'm very interested, right? I think Badwater, going back to the, I don't know, to that um, kickoff session on Ultraman Canada,
Yeah.
where the first I learned about the event, and the more I search, the more I know how hard it is, and that inspires me. And the other one is Western States, just because in a place that I go often. We go often to Tahoe, we go often to that resort specifically to Palisade,
Right.
and I think that will be a very interesting race to do. Not next year. Next year, focus a little bit more on time, than the year after going after those ultras.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah.
And how about the kids? What's the forecast for them ever following in your footsteps?
I don't know. My daughter went to college this week. Um, she left me a message thanking for everything and mentioning a lot of good things. One of them was that she loved racing with me, and she would love to do a half Ironman with me. I said, okay,
Oh, that's where it
that's
starts.
that's very interesting, very challenging. She said she's going to join the triathlon team at Berkeley.
Oh, good.
So I said, good. Now I'm certainly will need that bike to keep up with her on the run. But that's a different story. And Gabe is interested. We have a triathlon in Santa Cruz. He wants to do it. I may do it with him again.
Mm,
Uh, he spends a lot of time on soccer, so I have to balance that. We don't want to disturb like his soccer
right.
practices. So we're managing. In the end, staying active is the key. And
Yeah.
if they're doing that, it's good.
Oh, excellent. Well, thank you very much for coming and sharing your stories to the listener and for giving us some new tips to follow for the people that are doing these upcoming 5:15 races. It's always good to have those extra tips brought in by someone. And we didn't get into all of your stories obviously from your book, so people should check it out. And there are, as we say, people learn from their failures. And as I said earlier in this podcast, you put all yours in there as well, and I think that's something that is nice that you don't hide those, and then people can learn from those as well. So some extra tips if they pick up your book as well, whether they're doing a 5:15 race or a marathon or just trying to get in shape. You've added some good information in there. So and definitely inspire with your determination that you've shown.
No, thank you. Thanks, Larry, and thanks especially for hosting the podcast. Right, it's a wealth of information. I love to listen, and had helped me a lot preparing for the races. And I'll continue to be an active listener. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. Thank you very much.